expecting you, if you go into business where they say, we're hiring a marketing executive, somebody with 2-3 years or 2 years, 1 year experience in marketing, and they're telling you to come up with a strategy. They don't even, I think that's just the gimmick to pay you less for, pay you, little to nothing for, bigger activations. But you're not expected to do strategy. You're expected to essentially support the marketing manager who is doing all the strategy, who's saying, okay, this is where we want to get to. This is where we are. This is what the roadmap looks like. This is what we need to create to get to where we need to go. And so you're the one doing a lot of the tactical stuff. So a lot of things around, I mentioned earlier about a conference that we attended. I had a marketing executive on my team who made sure that everything that we had put together, so our social media was announcing the event ahead of time. On the day, we were doing lots of live coverage and doing lots of pictures and videos that were going out. They're the ones creating marketing campaign reports. So at the end of the 3-day food festival, they would assist me in creating reports and saying, this is how many people we were able to get to the stand. This is what our social media growth looks like off of the back of this campaign. This is what our analytics are telling us, our website traffic, all of that stuff you would be involved in. You would manage the email distribution as well. We'll get into email marketing a little bit, where you're managing the marketing database. If you have a business where, for example, you do lots of B2C campaigns, it's always useful to have email marketing as part of your tactical planning, where you're sending out weekly or daily email prompts, depending on what it is that you're selling, just to say, hey, this is what we have going on. These are some of the discounts we're offering. If there's any sort of like marketing promotional things that need to go out, you're the one that is essentially putting that campaign together. You're also liaising with vendors. Now, one thing that I want to mention on this call, which a lot of people will not tell you, is connection matters. Let me rephrase that. Relationships matter, right? One of the things I did very early on in my career, and when I say relationships, a lot of people say relationships in terms of who you know. I need to know all the big people so that I can get to my next role. I'm not talking about that. I knew absolutely nobody when I moved back to Lagos. In fact, my mom was completely against me moving back to Nigeria. And I had to hustle to get my first role because she said, I'm not going to be a part of it. You chose to come back, so chart your course. And that was what I needed to do. And ever since my first role, I have not needed per se to know anybody. The quality of my work has always spoken for me, but that's a whole other conversation, right? And we can chat more about that if we have some time towards the tail end. Just remind me in the chat. When I say relationships, I mean people like printers, people like designers, people that make your work that much easier. It is always good to have a good sort of database of these people. When I say database, I don't mean anything as technical as having a spreadsheet. I mean things like, just need to admit some people. Okay, admitted them. Sorry about that. So when I mean relationships, I mean people that will make your work easier. So for example, I know 2 designers in Lagos that help my life, that just have eased me through. I mean, one of them yesterday was laughing at me because he said, I've literally gone with you from company to company to company at this point where you have to be tired of me. But it's because we already have a working style. There's a flow. I know that if I send something out by morning, by end of day, I'm going to have it delivered. And it just makes my life so much easier. So knowing the right designers with the right price points, with the right quality, who are also able to keep to time matters. As a marketing executive, that's one of the most invaluable assets you can have at your disposal. Yeah. Now, traditional and modern marketing. In traditional marketing, and maybe I should have even said this earlier, we talked about this. where we said a lot of it is sales driven. In fact, in some instances, you see people utilize sales and marketing interchangeably a lot. Obviously, they're very different, as you know, and as we've spoken about. Modern marketing is more driven towards interest, getting people to be interested in the product. Key example, I'm sending out an email newsletter to talk about this mug, right? Back in the day, I will say my email title will be something like, again, you have to keep it very pithy, very succinct. You would say something like, selling this green mug for £10. So I'm using pounds, whatever your currency is. I know that we have people joining from different parts of the world, but you catch my drift. And that was what marketing was back in the day, and it was fine. People knew what you were selling and they bought it. Now in modern marketing, because there's so much information, where I feel like we shouldn't have access to the amount of information that we currently have access to. It's a problem, but that's a whole other story in and of itself. But because there's so much information floating around, you want to cut through the noise and get people interested in what you're selling. So you won't be shocked to find something, a title like "Here for a cup of tea," for example. Have a cup of tea on me could be your email title. Remember, you're trying to sell a mug. I don't know if you can see it. This green mug I'm holding. And those are two very different titles. The body of the text could be saying the same thing. You're essentially just trying to sell a mug. That is what modern marketing is saying, nobody's going to listen. I'm not going to open an email that says, buy this cup for £10. However, if you send me an email saying, have a cup of tea on me, I'm like, ooh, that's probably like a free deal somewhere. Let me see what it's saying. There's more chance that I'll open that email. Does that make sense? And feel free to drop comments in the chat so that I can know that you're following or catching my drift. Back in the day, traditional marketing was very direct. Again, very much, oh, come and buy X, Y, and Z. Now there's clear distinctions. It's very indirect, just focused on bringing people into the funnel. Back in the day, offline methods were it, from billboards to newspapers to those were the channels, very much, focused on catching people physically. Now in this day and age, digital methods. So channels are very different, from social media to website to emails. Everything can be accessed on your phone or on your laptop. 4Ps back in the day: product, price, place, promotion. That's what, like I said before, everything was geared and focused around the product. Now, in modern days, if you go and you study marketing today, you're not going to learn about the 4Ps. You're going to learn about 7Ps: product, price, place, promotion, people, process, and physical evidence. Now, people, process, and physical evidence are the 3 new Ps that have been introduced. Because like I said before, there is a whole other sort of aspect to marketing. It is thinking about the brand holistically, right? Even if your brand is not something physical like a phone, or is not selling something physical like a phone. In my current role, my product is not a physical product. I'm not selling a physical product, I'm selling a technology. So my company is what is known as a product as a service. So in some instances, you'll even find software as a service. That's what's called SaaS, where you're not selling a physical thing that can be touched. You're selling a service, or you're selling a technology. In my current role, I'm selling a technology that essentially, for the scientists on the chat, we're essentially selling a technology that can help genome editors perform better. Very complex, very, very complex. But again, I still need to be able to reach people through these different channels, from, websites to emails to conferences. It's a culmination of everything. Does that make sense? And then again, back in the day, traditionally, you had vanity metrics, what's known as vanity metrics. In other words, metrics that don't really help anything. Things like impressions in this day and age. If I'm selling something on social media and I come to you after the campaign and I say, oh, we had 1 million impressions. Marketers love to do that. So they'll say, oh, we had 1 million impressions. 1 million impressions just mean, and we'll do this in more detail next Saturday, just means it was seen 1 million times. It doesn't mean that 1 million people saw it. It just means if I say, for example, kept going on that ad 5, 6, 7 times, that's all adds to the impression. It doesn't really say how well your campaign has performed. Whereas now actionable metrics are things like, from this campaign that we ran, we had 50 people purchase this product via social media. That is conversion. That is an actionable metric. That is how you know, and that's how you are able to say this. Say, for example, we spent 10,000 naira on this campaign and 50 people bought, and they've spent 100,000 naira on the product. That is a more actionable metric. Before you now start delving into, okay, what does the product actually cost? What is the profit that we made? And then you now start calculating your return on investment. Again, we'll get into all of this on Saturday. I think on Saturday, we're going to do a lot of the practical, like learning around utilizing tools. Victor is going to come and speak to you. Victor is fantastic. You know how I spoke about how you should always build relationships with people that can make your life easier. Victor is one of them. Victor actually worked with me in my previous role, and he helped us boost our ranking. He helped us develop our SEO. We went from page 6 on Google ranking. So you know how when you search for example, if you search Apple laptop and the different companies come up on the first page, that is ranking. So when a company comes up on the first page, that's always, most companies want to be on the first page because it means that your customers have easier access to you as opposed to going to page 2, page 3, page 4 to look for you. That is all SEO, and he will delve into detail and show you how to utilize SEMrush and how to bid for competitive keywords, all that fun stuff next week. So all of that we'll dive into next week. But I really feel like it's very important for you to understand the foundation of marketing and everything that makes it what it is, right? I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat. Okay, somebody said, okay, but okay, this is interesting. Please give an idea. So Balaji wants to know, please give an idea for marketing in an engineering service consultancy firm that isn't allowed to advertise actively. Okay, Balaji, if you could just unmute yourself. This is actually an important question because you will get into, I think it's really important when you we utilize different examples from different types of industries, because I think it's a lot easier to work with companies where maybe the product is there and you're selling to customers. It's B2C. B2B can be a bit more complex. And I really want the B2B marketers to leave this masterclass feeling like they have acquired new information that makes their lives a lot easier. So Bolaji, could you just give me an idea what your engineering service consultancy firm does? And then I can answer your question better.
Okay. Good morning. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good morning. Yeah. Thank you for this class, and it has been eye-opening. So straight to it. I'm the marketing person for a consultancy engineering firm. Okay, this is what we do. The name of the company is Arop. We are one of the best consulting engineering firm in the world. So we just started this marketing part of it in our locally, and I happen to be one of the team members. Another team member is here too. Olatue is the communication persons. So we are fully here. We are here to learn. So what we do is, in the construction engineering world, there's the clients who wants to build a house. For like you're an example. Mm-hmm. So you want to build a house. You design it. The architect designs it. But then the architect just builds the beauty of it and all of that. So there's the engineer consultants that kind of design how the house will be safe, like stand the test of time. We design how, in the local layman terms, yeah, you put the pillar here, the amount of iron will be used, concrete. So we do that, all that on paper, thinking, right, do the drawings before the contractor comes. So we kind of instruct the contractor on this is how this particular beauty that the client wants will be. So the contractor now comes. So there are three C's in that industry: the clients, the consultants, and the contractors. Now the contractors are people like Julius Berger and the Racks that many people don't know about the consultants except you are in the business itself. So we are the consultant in that light for the construction. My company has also gone into water. Arup is a worldwide global firm. So we are in water, we are in the energy space, we are in the transportation sector, we are in just every engineering services, every touches, even in architecture. But we are consultants, we are not contractors, as it were. So, that part is a bit dicey where, consultants are not allowed to advertise on television and all of that. What sells for us is the quality of our work. But, times have changed. We're in a new modern marketing era. And I think it's high time technicals begin to market themselves in a profitable way. We do a lot of work and people don't know. I'm an engineer.
Okay.
Just
so,
pivot to that side.
Yeah. So, Balaji, I'm gonna dial you back a little bit, right? Okay, so I have a fair understanding of what it is that you do. So essentially, you're the consulting firm that they bring in to do all the occupational health and safety standards, right? For new builds.
Yes. Not just health and safety, general well-being, like
general well-being.
Safety is a part of the guys. The safety, this is how the building will be safe.
So who is your client? Who do you interface with?
Times when you interface with, the client may not know us, but sometimes the architects, we interface with the client, the architects in this phase, and the contractors. Who pays us is the clients. We instruct the contractors and supervise their job. Who pays us is the clients. And the clients can either be the architect or the person who has the money.
Yeah. Okay. So just in the interest of time, right? Now, it sounds like, so whilst you get paid from the client, in other words, the person who is essentially building this structure, the people who actually come to you and utilize your services are the architects and contractors, correct?
Yes.
So essentially your primary in this, and this is a very lovely example. So your primary, what I like to do in when I just join a new company, and in the last few years, I've had to do marketing from scratch, is build out what I call like a brand Bible. That's what I call it. And in this brand Bible, I always have primary stakeholders or primary target audience and then secondary target audience. For you, your primary target audience is your architects and contractors. Now, for you, what would be important, not necessarily, because I see what a lot of us do, right, in marketing, and we're all guilty of this, is that we love fluff and we love being creative for the sake of being creative. But one thing that, especially working for startups where everything has to be quantified and everything has to be justified, is you start to think about what is the most effective tactic for my target audience. So what you need to start looking at is, where are my target audience sitting? Where do they operate? Do they operate in, are there like housing, and obviously I'm not using the right terms, engineering style conferences that architects and contractors attend? Can I potentially get my CEO to give a talk at one of these conferences, especially one where we know a lot of our clients, a lot of our target audience will go to? Your secondary target audience are the clients that are building these structures. So those are the people that, if you had to do any TV ads or billboards or social media campaigns, that's where you will be seen. But this secondary target audience, are they decision makers? Can I, who wants to build a house, say I must definitely work with Bolaji's company as the consultant for my building. Can I do that?
No.
Or is it only my architects and contractors that can make that decision?
Okay. This is it. Most times the contractor cannot decide who the consultant is. Most times they can't because they come in the letter hand because we actually choose who the contractor is sometimes or the client themselves. So they come in the later end of the discussion. So who oftentimes picks who the consultant is? Structural engineering consultants are basically the architect or probably the client who has had some experience and said, okay, these people are the best, or this is what these people can do based on their credentials.
Okay. Okay. So, oh, sorry about that. I went sort of, okay. So, in your instance, okay, so same thing, same principle applies, right? So your architects and your clients are your primary stakeholders, and then the contractors are your secondary target audience. So in that instance, you need to be seeing where your clients are. Social media campaigns will work for you, especially always on content where you're constantly talking about the benefits of what you do, benefits of utilizing your service, and why you are better than your competitors. Obviously, not saying it in that way, but speaking more to your competitive advantages, right? And then you also want to build out a database of architects that you have worked with in the past, architects that you potentially want to work with, and you're sending them emails, you're doing cold calls. That's where your sales team comes to play. They're doing cold calls and saying, hello, we haven't heard from you in a while. Are you okay? Do you have any new builds that you'd like us to be a part of? We're available, we're at your disposal, we're at your service. So that way you're keeping them top of mind. Does that make sense? So any sort of campaign, and this should answer some of the other questions in the chat, any type of business that you're in, it's really always about, I do something where I build out a customer persona. And maybe this is part of the additional tools I will send your way via Comms Avenue. Customer persona is saying, this is who our target audience is. Our decision maker, in Bolaji's case, decision maker would be the architect. Where does the architect go to conferences? What types of conferences does he attend? What types of social media channels? It can be as granular as what kind of social media channels does he sit on? Does he use Instagram? Does he use Facebook? Is he elderly? Is he 60, 65? Is he 50, 55? Where based on the demographic, you can say, because he's 50 and above, he's mostly on Facebook. So Facebook is where we need to target. Is he 30 to 40, where Instagram is where he utilizes, or TikTok is where he's at? Let's utilize Instagram and TikTok. Let's make that our key platform that we're just sending out information to regularly. So everything starts from really identifying who's my target audience, where do they play. For me, for example, because I'm in such a niche industry where it is genomics, it's not, a lot of the communication that we want to put out are sensitive and are protected by intellectual property, that we can't put out anything. So for us, conferences are a big part of our marketing strategy. Going to the places where we know a lot of the big pharma, a lot of smaller biotechs, a lot of smaller pharma companies that are doing drug discovery are going to be placed, and then finding ways to optimize those events. So if there's a speaking opportunity, if there's an opportunity to have a booth that is somewhere central, placement of the booth is also important, somewhere central, then we now start designing, okay, these are the types of banners we want to put out. It really depends on the type of organization that you're in and who your target audience is. And then you can now start to decide, okay, based on my target audience, these are the type of people that we deal with. This is where they are placed. And so let's channel everything their way so that we make sure that wherever they're seated, whether that is on social media, whether that is on TV, if your clientele is elderly and they still watch TV, maybe we need to do something with DSTV, for example. It is really just capturing the attention wherever they are, wherever your target audience are. Does that help? And does that answer your question?
Yes. If you can some justice, I believe with time we will still learn more. Yeah.
Yes.
It will start. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, somebody else okay. I'll try and see if I can answer these questions. Lubabatu, please just ping me before we end today so that I can answer that question. But let's just move on very quickly. We don't have a lot of time left. We've already done 1 hour on this. Okay, so soft skills matter. Like I said earlier, I mentioned some of these things earlier. One of the things that really, really kind of worked for me when I was in marketing at the very beginning was managing my relationship with my manager. So usually when you're a marketing executive, you would report to a marketing manager or a head of marketing, or in some smaller companies, you would report directly to the CEO or the business owner. Now, managing that relationship is very, very key to you having a successful career or a successful role there. Even now, I am still managing my boss. I am still managing my manager, in essence. And that process is called managing up. Number one, information rapport is very, very key. Another thing that I've realized is very, very key, and I've seen it happen where I have promoted people that reported into me, not necessarily because they were, I wouldn't say, I don't want to use the term they were the best in the business and they just knew everything, right? It was just, what are our company goals? What are the goals that we're working towards? Is this person taking initiative? Are they going outside of their comfort zone to learn? I think learning and attitude are very key things in growing as a marketer. Sometimes you will have to do things that are completely out of your job description. And that's fine. Obviously, there are instances where sometimes businesses take advantage. But I always say that the learning that you do going out of your job description, nobody can take that from you. In my earlier years, I was doing I was doing things as crazy as getting coffee for a client. I remember that we used to have clients visit the office quite often when I was in PR in the beginning, and I just took it upon myself to go out and buy coffee for them. Obviously on the company dime, because how much was I earning? But and just say, oh, would you like some coffee? Would you like something to drink? It was just a way to also infiltrate those meetings. So sometimes I remember that initially my boss was a bit skeptical to involve me in meetings. But then when you're bringing tea and you're bringing coffee and you're bringing snacks or whatever, you're kind of just there. And people even sometimes forget that you're even there. So I'd grab a chair, and have a seat, listen to the conversations, listen to how my boss was speaking about the services that we render, listen to her. And then with time, she started to trust me with taking over those conversations, where when new people wanted to, say, for example, acquire our service, I would go and have those initial conversations with them and say, hey, this is the business we render. This is what we do. This is what we've done for previous clients. How can we be of service to you? That is so important. So beyond your day-to-day work, you need to also figure out, okay, now that I'm in this company, where do I see myself in the next 2-3 years? How do I want to advance in my career? And it goes beyond, you'll find very soon, like, and for some of you that are also seasoned, you'll find that some of the people you work with that are leading teams, they're not necessarily the smartest people in the room. In fact, there's a lot that they don't know. There's a lot I don't know, right? But it's also about how to, like, ensuring that you're able to navigate, ensuring that you're able to learn very quickly, learn very fast, adapt very quickly. Another thing that I think is important, and I'm not going to go into everything that's here, is learn the industry speak. Now, there's a way that marketers speak. And not a lot of people like to hear this because they're just like, yeah, but, just take me as I am, accept me as I am. One of the things that I realized, even when I moved to the UK, for example, is I remember that somebody said to me, oh, I kind of just want to hear you, use a lot of the marketing jargon. And I was like, how does that affect my ability to be able to do the job? But you'd be surprised, and I remember that somebody said to me, and so I was talking to one of my somebody I really respect, and she works for Meta. in the US, Meta is Facebook, and she said to me, she said, Moyo, sometimes your offerings don't need to be grandiose, but you do need to use the right language. You need to make it sound bigger than it is for you to demand the kind of salary or the kind of compensation or the kind of fee if you run a consultancy that you want, because that's what human beings buy into. So there is an industry speak. There are some terms I've used now in doing this presentation that I'm sure some of you are like, oh, what does that mean? That's all part of it, right? Because in marketing, what people want to know is that I can send you out with a deck, I can send you out with a pitch deck, and you can go out there and talk to people about our company and pull people into the funnel. If you can't speak properly, if you can't articulate yourself properly, I'm not going to hire you. Right? There's people that I've seen that are able to do, except you want to go into things like, for example, what Victor does, where he's an SEO specialist and he doesn't have to deal with anybody. I think in his last role with me, it was mostly me that he had to deal with. And I had to force him, I'm sure he'll talk about this. I had to force him to start doing presentations because he would just be in his little corner and he's just like, just leave me to do my job. However, if he's eyeing, for example, head of marketing someday, or he wants to run a consultancy, which he actually does, he's going to have to talk to people. He's going to have to get people to buy into what he's selling. A lot of marketing is that, getting people to buy into what you're selling. So you have to learn. I'm not saying you have to speak with an accent. Don't get me wrong. You can speak like a typical Nigerian and still be charismatic, and people will love you. My husband runs a startup and you should hear him speak. He speaks with his, like, he goes into these rooms where there's like people from different countries and he's there just speaking like a normal Nigerian. And they're like, oh, I like your flavor. It's not about, you know, acquiring an accent from God only knows where. It's just about using the right terminology. It's about learning how marketers talk about the product, talk about their delivery. It's all about delivery. Now, there's things that can help you. If you go onto TikTok and you search marketing talk, you'll find a lot of people are delivering like things around, like, okay, so this is how you speak, this is my day-to-day, this is how I talk in presentations. And we're going to have a practical class in a bit. You guys are going to go into breakout rooms, I think very, very soon, actually. And you're going to do an exercise for me. In these breakout rooms, in fact, let me get to that. I think that's the next slide. Okay, this is top tips for B2B marketers. We'll come back to this, where you're going to create a 2-slide presentation. Now, in this 2-slide presentation, what I want to know is your company's problem statements. So some of you have done marketing before, some of you are newbies, but what's nice about it is that you'll be working in a group, right? So anybody on the group can share some of the companies that they've worked with or problem statements that the company is. It can be something as simple as, my company needed me to increase brand awareness, right? And a one-liner of the most effective marketing tactic that you helped utilize to solve the problem. It could be something as simple as, I created a social media page for them where I ran campaigns, and this is how I ran the campaigns, and this is how we were able to solve the problem, right? Now, 2 things I want to see in these presentations. One, you see how in my presentations, there's not a lot of text. So you're able to focus on what it is I'm saying. That is very key. In presentation, not too much text. I don't need to see like the entire story of how you started, when you started, what you now did, none of that. Go straight into it, because a lot of the decision makers, a lot of the employers that you'll be speaking to do not have time. Time is an invaluable commodity for them, right? So my current employer, for example, will tell you, okay, yeah, if you could just speed that up, that would be helpful. Because he knows in a day he has 24 hours and he has to make use of those 24 hours in a way that he is moving his company forward. I don't need to hear the whole story of what it is you're doing. I just need to hear, this was the problem, this is how we solved it. Key things I'm looking at in this presentation, in this practical exercise: 1, your delivery, how you're speaking about it. 2, the text that you use from your presentation. I need to be able to get the general gist of what you're saying, right? And then 3, like just how you put it all together, the entire delivery, right? So that's something that we're going to work on. I'm going to quickly run through the top tips for B2B marketers. And this is important because I saw that a lot of you in the sign up form mentioned that you worked for B2B companies and you're really struggling. B2B marketing, to be honest, I've done B2B marketing now for about 6 of my 9 years, or even 7 of my 9 years in marketing. And it's tough. It's really tough. A lot of people will not tell you, but it's actually quite hard to do B2B marketing because it almost feels like you're not talking to people, you're talking to businesses. And that can be really complex to do. So one of my top tips, or some of my top tips that have worked for me, 1, cozy up to the sales team, like I mentioned earlier, right? So make the sales team your besties. They're the ones who have the ears of the target audience. They know what the target audience has complained about before. They know what they've mentioned. They know what they've said. They know everything. And they know enough about the business to also help you create like the marketing assets that you need to create and work out your strategy. So that's really important. Spend your first month really deep diving into the business. Now, in every business that I've gone into, I've given myself at least 2-3 weeks to understudy the business. I need to understand what this business does. For example, in my current role, I'm in a very technical landscape where it is genomics and it is very, very complex. Chidindu, who was commenting earlier, you will know about this because you're a health practitioner, is very, very complex. So I'm spending a lot of time understanding what the business does, immersing myself into articles, complex articles, just trying to understand who we are, what our product does. All of that stuff is very, very key. Never start a new role and then from day one, you're already telling them, these are my ideas. This is what we need to do. I see a lot of marketers do that, and that's problematic because you've not spent any time listening. You need to listen. Spend some time listening, schedule some time with maybe the head of sales or members of the sales team. Schedule some time with anybody who's quite senior who can tell you, this is what the business is doing, this is what I want the business to achieve. If you have access to the CEO, spend some time talking to him or her and understanding what would drive impact within the company. One of the questions that I asked in my last interview before I got this role was, how can I impress you in the first 3 months? And part of the feedback from that was actually spending some time understanding the business. A lot of what you do as a marketer is not necessarily like, oh, I need to roll this out and let's do this campaign. And I see a lot of people rush into that. Understand the business first. When Bolaji was speaking, I was taking notes as he was talking about it because engineering is new to me. So I need to understand who his target audience is for me to be able to say, okay, this is how you go about this, right? Very, very, very key. Your strategy should support the goals the business is prioritizing. If the business is saying, look, I want to increase our revenue, and you're bringing up campaigns that will increase, I don't know, brand awareness, that won't necessarily do anything for the revenue, then you're off target, right? So understand what the business's goals are and create strategy that is feeding into those goals. Build out your buyer personas. Be as visual as you need to be. I gave an example when Bolaji spoke, when he mentioned the architects and the contractors. Now, why I mentioned the buyer persona was it helps me to understand what channels that they use. So, for example, another example, somebody mentioned an NGO earlier. I think it was you, Lubabatu, where you talked about how you need to craft marketing campaigns for your NGO. Now, an NGO in typical sense will have various stakeholders, right? If you speak to the head of the NGO or the person who is at the forefront of the business, they'll tell you, for example, that one thing they're trying to achieve is maybe more funding So funding can come in different ways. It can come in form of grants. It can come in front of donors and well-meaning individuals. It can come in different ways. And usually that is your key target audience, right? Now, in building buyer personas, that would look like saying, okay, we want to get investors. This is what the investor looks like. For example, if we want to get grants from maybe the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, what does Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation look like? Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is massive. There's no way to say this is how we target them, right? But when you distill it into a buyer persona and you say, okay, the person we're trying to reach out to that is a decision maker in Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is maybe the head of Africa something, right? What does that person look like? How old are they? What channels do they utilize? When they select companies or foundations that they want to work with, how do they go about that selection process? Now, you're not going to have all the information, and don't put that pressure on yourself to have all the information. Usually in larger NGOs, you would have a business development unit who will have the information that you need. So you can go to them and say, hey, for some of the people that have come into the pipeline, how have we found them? What channels have you guys used? That will feed into your buyer persona, right? So your buyer persona is usually like a presentation like this, and it will have a random picture. I'll see if I can, when we go out for our break and when we come back, I'll see if I can bring up one that I did for Easy when I worked at Easy. And I literally had a random person's picture. I even had a funny name like Ukraine. I think the name of the person was Yuri Slafasnova or something along those lines. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that surname. And then it would have everything from like their school education. I was that granular. Like, this is their education level. These are the channels they utilize. You will even find in some instances that, like, so for example, in like more developed countries, they don't really use Instagram. They mostly get channels, or they would mostly use things like, if I search, for example, say you work for an NGO that does women's health. If I search women's health organizations in Africa, something should be able to come up. So you might find that whilst you're thinking, okay, if I do social media campaigns, if I do email marketing, that's where I'll be really successful. What you might find is that you need an SEO strategy, because if somebody searches widows or women's health organizations, foundations in Africa, I should be able to come up. So that's something that you prioritize, right? So understanding who you're talking to really, really matters. A/B testing. So a huge chunk of marketing is iterating. Don't feel stuck on a strategy. If something is not working, feel free to be like, you know what, this isn't really bringing in the kind of people that we want to. Let's sit back and think and re-strategize. Don't be scared to re-strategize. Even at any level, marketers are always re-strategizing. Marketers are always reiterating, right? And that process is called A/B testing. A/B testing is essentially testing different things and saying, okay, this works for this market. Maybe this doesn't work for that market. Key example, at Easy, I found that social media marketing worked very well for Nigeria, Mexico, and I believe it was Eastern Europe, those three areas. America, Canada, it didn't work for them, because where they would find us are in key forums on LinkedIn, or key forums on WhatsApp, or key forums, or even just on our website. So we needed to make sure, so in prioritizing our SEO campaign strategy, we needed to prioritize America, Canada, those countries first, before we then focused on like other developing markets like Nigeria, Ukraine, Mexico, those areas. Those areas were like, okay, we'll prioritize social media marketing for these people because it seems to be working. Meanwhile, America, Canada, let's boost our ranking. Let's make sure that when people search us, they can find us. Let's make sure our branding is up to speed. Let's make sure our website is user-friendly and it is Our UI UX is very seamless to avoid bounce rates and things like that. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to give you as many examples as possible so that this makes sense in practice. So it is now 11:16, and we're going to go into our breakout rooms. I'm going to give you 7 minutes to come up with this presentation. So at exactly 11:27, we're going to come back. And at 11:27, you guys are going to do all your presentations. After the presentations, we'll go for a little break, probably around we'll do like a 15 minutes break, and then we'll come back and continue the session. Does that make sense? Everybody happy? Feel free to speak into your mics. So I know that we're all in the same boats.
Yes, that's okay.
Fantastic.
That's okay.
Okay, Chinendu, you wanted to know quickly what primary and secondary audiences are. Okay, cool. I'll quickly answer that before we go into our breakout rooms. So, primary audience are the people that directly influence your goals or influence your campaign strategy. So when I use the example with Bolaji, the reason I asked him who would be the decision maker in whether or not they choose to work with them was because I wanted to define who his primary people, like those are the first people that you focus on when you run a campaign or when you decide on what your marketing strategy is. So for Bolaji, architects and clients were his primary audience. Secondary audience were people like contractors who sometimes will have a sway, but not necessarily all the time. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Fantastic. So in an NGO example, because I saw you mention NGO, your secondary audience will be the general public, while your primary audience will be donors, people that fund your the business, things like that. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. For our group, our problem statement is that there's a luxury real estate company with experiencing a huge decline in sales due to increased inflation. I mean, people can't afford to pay millions of naira anymore, and of course, the revenue has dropped, and they are looking to increase their sales. One of the things they've also done is that as a result of the market research from the marketing team, they have realized that look, the problem is in the purchasing power of the target audience, and so they've had to create a diffusion product which is more tailored to middle income earners and low income earners, and also leverages other sources of finances to encourage more people to take up houses and purchase homes. So the key tactics here, it's not showing. Anyways, key tactics here is the first one is the price-based strategy. The tactic itself uses social media, uses conferences, events, and other forms. So part of the things we're going to be doing is that we're going to be having a price-based strategy, which basically focuses on the amount, because we know that the price is the barrier to entry for this product. And so we'll be saying things like, with just 3 million naira, you can become a homeowner in the heart of Abuja. Don't bother about finances, start with 3 million naira and move in, because we also realize that our partners, right, our collaborators are financing organizations like mortgage banks and the like. Another key way we're going to reach this target audience and push the message is through influencer marketing. So we know that because it's no more a luxury product now, the target audience is wider. We can reach more people. Certain influencers can help us reach a wider target audience and also influence them to maybe make a purchase. We'll be doing that. And then, of course, events, collaborations with mortgage banks, financing organizations, so real estate housing shows and things like that. That's how we're going to promote this new diffusion brand and reach more people. Thank you.
Again, this is another example that I really love because, again, you're bringing something new, which we haven't really touched on, which is launching a diffusion brand. So I have a question that I'm going to throw open. When a luxury brand decides, okay, this isn't quite working, people are not able to afford our service, let's start to offer this service to lower income earners. What does that do to the brand? There's a word I'm looking for.
I think it dilutes the brand.
Fantastic. It dilutes the brand. It dilutes the brand. And so part of your job as a member of the marketing team would be to say that, because I think one thing that and I think it's just the poor culture of the way that we do work sometimes in Africa, is that we don't rest enough on the expertise of the people that we have hired into the organization. But that will be your job to say, it's not for you to sit down and be like, why are we doing this? But we should be doing this. That's how you become an invaluable member of the team, is to say to your manager, to say to, if you have the ear of your CEO, obviously not going over the ear of whoever your line manager is, to say, oh, making this decision, because that is a business decision that they have made, right? It has nothing to do with you. It's above your pay grade. However, from a marketing perspective, it affects how you market. So you want to say, some of the things we want to put forward are, this dilutes a brand. Is there a way that we maybe launch this under another brand name that remains part of the umbrella brand? So that way, our brand doesn't lose its finesse. We don't lose our audience that we've already that are already in our pipeline, and we don't dilute the brand and our offerings. But that was a very good presentation, Sarah. Thank you so much for introducing that to us. I also like that you use different icons for different things. You were also very articulate in the way that you put that forward. And that was really interesting to learn of as well. Okay, so we have one more group. Guys, quick question. Do you mind if we do not go on break so that we can touch on everything we're supposed to touch on today? Seeing as we're supposed to end at 1 p.m. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Perfect. Okay, cool. So next team, I think we have just one more group to present. You guys are doing a fantastic job presenting, by the way.
So for group 4, we have our company's name is Logbook Company. It's so the problem statement essentially is Logbook Company is a B2B marketing company, a tech marketing company that provides products and has distributors directly. And we have just introduced this easy buy purchase model to increase sales. However, over time, we've been using this telemarketing approach to sell our products to our distributors. So oftentimes the distributors have to call in to make their orders and all. But because of this new model we're introducing to the sorry, 1 minute, please. Okay, so because of this new product, the new model, our sales team cannot deal with the whole orders. Essentially, we have distributors who have to wait a longer time for their products to be delivered, and it's already affecting the sales projections. So to address this issue, we had to introduce the strategy we approached basically was to introduce new marketing channels, through which people can send in their orders. That's our distributors can send in their orders and have it on for the delivery team to deliver. So what we did was to introduce the email marketing channels. We developed communities, the WhatsApp community and the Telegram community, where our distributors can send in their orders. Then we also allowed them to start sending in through text. So we had in the sales department, we had groups who could manage these basic channels working with the marketing team, and it worked. So what we did essentially was to test this strategy in the Lagos market. And from the success of it, we're able to scale to other states in Nigeria.
Sorry, hi, can I step in, please, for group 4?
That's all right.
Oh, thank you very much, Moyo. Okay, thank you very much, Grace. I just wanted to give a little bit more context to it because the company was my previous company. So the problem statement here was, how do we sustain the revenue that we already had from B2B? It was great, but at this time in the company, it sort of wasn't really great, right? This particular month or a couple of months. And the problem statement there was, how do we sustain revenue from B2B? And the marketing team came up with this solution to get information to prospects in fewer steps and make the purchase process more efficient. For context, it's an ICT retail and distribution company. And for retail, obviously, like we had the website, but for distribution, the model was different in the sense that we used to send the price list to them in a very long PDF. And for most of these customers, they already know what they want. They just want to know the price for the day and buy, especially because my company had really good deals that they were giving, right? So usually what they would do is call in and then negotiate prices, speak to one person, speak to the next person, try to get the best deal. So we thought, why don't we just give them, like a microns, get the prices, pay, and have it purchased by in one link, right? And we promoted this for a period of time, giving them particular MOQ discounts and then also giving free delivery in Lagos just for a test. We could not do that in all of the states in Nigeria, even though we used to deliver to all of the states in Nigeria. But yes, that's how I went about it. So we pushed this offer or this innovation through WhatsApp, seeing as that's where most of the sales team used to interact with their market. So we pushed this through WhatsApp, through email, and then through SMS. And then it basically caused a turnaround because most of the people then responsible for buying would just click this link, sign up, search, add to cart, and then make their purchases like that. That was how we solved the problem.
Thank you for jumping in there, Overcomer, and also thank you for the initial presentation, Grace. One thing that I like that you've done here is, first of all, this is it, like I said earlier, and this is why I wanted us to each come at it with fresh eyes, because each of us has had different organizations, work with different organizations with unique challenges. Again, here, I think I also really like that you also mentioned that interplay between sales and marketing, which is something that I touched on in the beginning, because I know that that is usually very confusing for a lot of people. So you've just here shown us a very unique example of how marketing fed into sales, and marketing had their own function, sales had their own function, to all, at the end of the day, be able to accomplish the goal. One thing that I like that you mentioned as well is that you truncated the content. So sometimes marketing looks like different things. Marketing is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Sometimes it's about taking the information that you currently have, and we're going to touch on that now as we do some content marketing examples, is how you take what is existing and what you already have, and essentially take all the bite sizes that you need to get what you want, essentially. One of the things that has happened, especially with modern marketing, is that people are not consuming information in the same way they used to. Back in the day, people would consume all the information, they'd read, they'd do their research, they'd really kind of delve into all the detail. But now people just want to know, how can you get me from point A to point B? And like, how can I do it seamlessly in the quickest way possible so I can move on with my day? And that's exactly what you were able to accomplish in this thing. Again, like I said initially, Canva, great tool for putting together presentations. This is an okay presentation design-wise, but I know that, again, there was the time constraint and it could be better. But again, that's just for everyone to note that Canva is a very good tool for designing presentations and decks. So very, very good attempt, great, and all right, so we have just one more group left.
Okay. So just a short background. We are going to be looking at how a company, a project delivery company in the oil and gas industry, is trying to convert, their communications endeavor into marketing and subsequently into sales. Okay, so the problem statement, this company wants to know how they can convert, like I said, their communications into strategic marketing and eventually sales. And the reason is because before now, this company was just lying low, especially because of how the industry is. Most project delivery companies in the oil and gas industry do not make a lot of noise. And it's usually because of how the business is run. So a typical way that project delivery companies get contracts is that they bid. And these bids are done in traditional ways, meaning that an oil and gas refinery or an oil and gas company, opens a bid and says, "Oh, you guys, we have this project ongoing. We need someone to come and service our refinery, or we need someone to come and service our offshore facility." And the bid is open, and then every project delivery company that is interested and meets their criterion, or the criteria rather, have to bid for that contract. And based on the company's discretion, based on this company that is opening these bids, based on their discretion, they now give access and offer the contract to whoever they deem it fit. And so because of that traditional method, most project delivery companies never used to see the need to be online or to be in the digital space. Again, because of the major stakeholders, the primary target audience for this business are elderly people who are not, on your typical social media platforms like Instagram. You would probably mostly find them on Facebook or just watching, network news or any of those other, traditional digital channel. And so because of that, the company didn't see any need to have a communications or a marketing department. But because times have changed, because they realized that they needed to move the company into the digital space, they now hired a communications communications officer. And so far, this person has been able to give the online a certain level of online presence. However, the company wants to go beyond just having an online presence, to now converting those leads or those potential leads into sales. And that is how this problem statement, comes up. And the solutions that we are offering is that, first of all, the communications professional should get a feedback form and hear what clients have to say about their services and their products. And this is great because the company is currently rebranding, including their website. So this is a feature that should make it on the website. For instance, this is a feature that should make it on their key social media platforms, to make available these forms for clients. A second solution is for the company to push their success stories. And this is dicey because most clients in this industry are very discreet. They do not want pictures of their facilities online, right? So this comms professional has to look for a way to go about this one, just so that we don't or the company doesn't infringe on certain rights or on whatever contracts they have made with clients. Another solution is to run ads and paid ads across the major channels that they are currently on. Sorry about that. And then the last solution is to share capabilities. And this is actually very interesting because the company runs a diverse range of services. So this solution would also require that the marketer understands each of these services, breaks it down, and then pushes it out there so that people can know, or the right audience can know that, okay, that these are the services they offer. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys very much. You can contact us on any of our communication or contact information. Thank you very much, everyone.
I like that little add-on that you did there where you even created like a contact email. That's always good because when people look at your presentation and they have any additional questions that maybe don't come to them during the presentation, they know who to contact, and that's always a very good thing to have. The only thing that I will scold you guys about though is that the instruction said 2 slides at best. So if the first slide could have focused on just the problem statement, the solution, and then the next slide was a thank you slide with the emails, that would have been perfect. Additionally, I really like that again, a completely different industry, oil and gas, where a lot of the work is not necessarily kind of driven towards sales. And I think this is also important to mention as well, is that marketing looks, again, like I said previously, marketing looks different for different brands, right? For some brands, it is saying, hey, we already have an amazing pipeline of clients. However, we do want to boost our look and feel. We want to boost how we appear on the website. We want to boost our branding. Maybe we want to go through a rebrand where our branding is seen as more premium, or and that can look like different things. And for each different types of goals, you have different tactics. So for example, if you're trying to increase brand awareness, then you're trying to essentially grow things like maybe your different channels like social media, etc. If the goal of the brand is saying, hey, we want to boost how we are perceived and our branding, then you want to do things like maybe do a website audit where you're looking at your website and saying, how do we appear to the public? You can even have focus groups where you pull different people together, or you do like you say, okay, say you're in oil and gas, you pull some of your clients, even your employees sometimes can be a good sounding board to say, when you look at this website, what comes to mind? What do we come across as premium? Do we come across as luxury? Do we come across as a pocket friendly service? What do we come across? Just to get a different eye on and a different perspective on things, and then you're able to build from that point out. So it's not always about increasing brand awareness. It's not always about like boosting revenue, boosting, what the profit or whatever. Sometimes it can look like, how do we position ourselves well in the market? How do we make sure that we're standing out against our competitors who have maybe the competitors have gone through a rebrand in the last few years, and that's maybe making them look better. Maybe it's even comments that some of your existing customers are making to say, hey, this process could be a little better, or maybe your look and feel could be more elevated. Sometimes it's about like even just keeping up with the Jonesies in that sense within your industry. So marketing can look like different things, but it's important to understand the goals of the business, important to understand the target audience, and then you can start to build from then on. I think we just have, but again, fantastic presentation, well done. You spoke well, you articulated yourself well, and I like that you also put some pictures in there, which gave us a sense of what you're going to be talking about.